Typically, my weekend tends to be quite dull. Now my life feels like a thrilling mystery, or perhaps something even more perilous. All thanks to a silly book. I suppose I should start from the beginning and explain how it all began. On a Saturday morning, the sun was shining brilliantly, and I was feeling a bit restless, so I decided to take a bike ride around my neighborhood. As I pedaled through the area, lost in thought about my belongings and life in general, I felt an unexplainable pull towards a specific house. I stopped in front of it and noticed a handwritten sign announcing a yard sale. I never really cared for yard sales. I wasn't like some older folks who spent their free time rummaging through other people's discarded items. To me, yard sales were merely the leftovers of others' lives, people trying to offload dusty relics that had long ago lost their appeal. Yet, something about this particular yard sale caught my attention, prompting me to dismount my bike and venture into the yard to take a look around. The yard was cluttered with old furniture and tables brimming with various knickknacks and toys, but I halted when I spotted a box labeled books. A smile instantly spread across my face. I adored books. Whenever I was without my phone or needed something to occupy my time, I would dive into a book of any subject. I hurried over to the box, knelt down, and began sifting through it, pulling out faded paperbacks and yellowed hardcovers. My fingers glided over the spine of one particular volume, the title catching my eye. It stood out from the rest. I picked up the unusual book, feeling its weight in my hands, and quickly noticed how worn and tattered it was. The spine was cracked. As I opened the book, I saw that the pages were yellowed and brittle with age, filled with handwritten notes and peculiar symbols that seemed to dance before my eyes. It seemed that the person who wrote this book took great care to record something significant. At the moment, I didn't think much of it, but I could sense a strange energy radiating from the book, a kind of chilling pulse that made me shiver. I closed my eyes, brushed off the cover, and read the title, which sent another shiver through me. Prophetic Pages. I considered tossing the book back in the box and simply walking away, but it was too captivating to abandon. I couldn't just leave it there, tucked away in a box in someone's yard. So, with the prophetic pages tucked under my arm, I stood up and approached an older woman who seemed to be managing the yard sale. I extended the book towards her, and she nodded in acknowledgement, before informing me in a raspy voice that the cost was $5. Without a second thought, I handed her the cash. "Be cautious with that book, young man. It's not ordinary," the woman warned. I merely nodded and made my way back to my bike, placing the enigmatic book in the basket before setting off towards home. Upon arriving, I parked my bike outside my house, took the prophetic pages, and entered. I went upstairs, not particularly concerned about my family, and shut myself in my room, sitting in my chair, eager to delve deeper into my latest discovery. The intriguing prophetic pages had piqued my interest, and I was ready to immerse myself in its narrative and pages filled with wonder. As I began to flip through, I quickly noticed that each one contained a detailed entry about an individual's life and death, and their names struck me as oddly familiar. I suddenly realized that the names in this book belonged to people I knew. Friends, family, even acquaintances. My hands turned icy when I turned to the next page. I nearly hurled the book across the room. I'd stumbled upon a page that appeared different from the rest. Its ink was darker. The writing seemed more urgent. The names and dates listed alongside each other's entry were accompanied by descriptions. The first entry appeared to belong to my neighbor, Mr. Thompson. Scott Thompson, 63 years old, passed away from a heart attack April 12, 2024. I grimaced, unable to believe what I was reading. It was far too specific to be mere coincidence. Then I suddenly remembered that tonight was the night, and I tossed the book aside, pondering its implications. Was Mr. Thompson truly going to die? Or was this just some cruel joke? In a flash, I understood that I had to warn him about the dangers he was in, so I stood up from my chair, leaving the book behind. As I reached my threshold, I hesitated. Hold on, there's no way he'll believe me. Probably think I'm crazy or pulling a prank or something. My breath was quickening, though. The thought wouldn't leave my mind, so I hurried downstairs into the main area, standing by the front door, lost in thought about Mr. Thompson. "William, what are you up to?" a voice inquired. I turned around quickly to see my parents in the kitchen, both busy preparing dinner, their expressions showing concern for my unusual behavior. "I need to go see Mr. Thompson," I replied. "Why? It's nearly dinner time," Dad responded. A huge lump formed in my throat. What was I supposed to say? That our neighbor was going to have a heart attack and I had discovered it through a book? I need to return something I borrowed to him, and I thought I'd give it back tonight," I said, grinning nervously. "You can do it tomorrow. It's too late now. Pretty sure Mr. Thompson doesn't want to be disturbed at this hour," Mom replied. I growled quietly and clenched my fists. I couldn't voice my frustration because I knew I couldn't argue with my parents about what was supposed to happen. A few hours later, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. It was dark in my room, and I couldn't take it anymore. I got out of bed, still in my pajamas, and slipped on my shoes, dashing out of my bedroom, out of the house, heading for Mr. Thomas's place. I raced down the front steps in the dark, but skidded to a halt when I saw the scene before me. Bright ambulance lights illuminated the area, and emergency workers were loading a body into the back of an ambulance. I then noticed that Mr. Thomas's wife sat on the porch crying. I hurried over to her, bent on my hands and knees, breathing heavily. When I looked up, she was staring at me, and despite the darkness, the ambulance lights revealed the tears streaming down her face. "What happened?" I asked. "It's terrible, William. I got up to use the bathroom, but I couldn't open the door. I tried to wake Scott, but he wouldn't wake up, so I called for help. They told me he had a heart attack. I can't believe it. He was the healthiest man I ever knew," Mrs. Thomas explained. I instinctively took a step back, realizing that this was exactly what was foretold in the prophetic pages. It said that Mr. Thomas would die tonight, and it happened just as the book described. "William, are you okay?" Miss Thomas asked me. I took another step back, my heart pounding, then turned and sprinted back home. I burst through the door to find my mom and dad standing there, and they didn't look pleased. "William Johnson, what on earth are you doing up?" Mom yelled at me. I glanced at the front door, recalling what had just occurred, then turned back to my parents. I needed to tell them. I had to let them know. "Mr. Thomas passed away from a heart attack," I explained, gesturing towards the front door. "Oh my God," gasped Dad in disbelief. I wanted to share the details about the book and its contents, but I knew my parents would likely dismiss it as nonsense. Without uttering another word, Mom and Dad hurriedly went past me, dashing out of the house, seemingly on their way to see Mrs. Thomas. I simply returned to my room, surveying the dim space and pondering where I had placed that ridiculous book, contemplating whether to burn it or toss it away. I decided to postpone that until tomorrow, when I had the chance and when Mom and Dad weren't around to catch me in the act. I crawled into bed, wondering what would unfold tomorrow. The following morning, I awoke to find the prophetic pages resting on the foot of my bed, which left me puzzled. Without saying a word, I picked it up. As I began to flip through the pages, my heart raced as I recognized the names of friends from high school, family members, even acquaintances like Mr. Thompson. Each page contained a detailed account of a person's death, with dates approaching rapidly. Goosebumps prickled my arm. Was this all just a cruel joke? I attempted to dismiss it as a product of someone's dark imagination, but the more pages I turned, the more dread coiled in my stomach. Eventually, I became consumed by the book, searching for any means to avert the impending deaths, knowing that if I didn't take action, I'd lose everyone I cared about. I attempted to reach out to several people to inform them about what might happen to them, but they either ignored me or claimed to be too busy. Just then, my phone rang, and I glanced down to see it was Ryan, one of my best friends since elementary school. "Hey, Willie, you busy?" he greeted with a cheerful and carefree tone. Not really, but I need to discuss something very important with you," I replied, feeling a knot of panic in my throat. Should I really share the details of the prophetic pages and what occurred to Mr. Thomas? He'd probably just laugh and hang up on me. "Sure, what's going on?" he inquired. I fell silent, hesitating as I struggled to find the right words to explain the book that was essentially about death to my best friend. Just be cautious, all right? I came across something online that made me worry you might be in danger." "Are you referring to that illness happening in Russia?" he chuckled, though I could sense the worry seeping into his voice. Just promise me you'll take it easy, okay? Don't do anything reckless." "Yeah, all right, I promise." And I felt a slight sense of relief, though it was short-lived. I was about to end the call when Ryan mentioned that he had a question for me, and since I was already on the line, I figured I might as well hear him out. "Dude, I'm going to a horror movie showing today and was wondering if you wanted to come along. You probably need a break from whatever's going on in that head of yours." Okay, I guess I'll see you there." After hanging up, I let out a soft sigh and looked down to see the prophetic pages still resting on my lap, now open to a different page. Ryan Orangewood, 26 years old, shot in the forehead and robbed on April 15th, 2024. As soon as I noticed my phone slipped from my grasp, I shut the book and picked it up, tossing it across the room and watching it land with a loud thud. "Oh my God, no," I thought as I rose from the bed. Without uttering a single word, I gathered everything I needed, leaving the book on the floor, and dashed downstairs to tell Mom and Dad everything that had happened. However, when I reached the lower level, I found it eerily quiet. No one was around. The only thing that caught my eye was a note taped to the front door. I approached it silently, took it down, and read it. "Dear William, I'm sorry, but your father and I had to leave for work early due to an important meeting. We'll be back by lunchtime. If you decide to go out with a friend or by yourself, please call us. Love, Mom." I didn't care much for the note, crumpling it up before sprinting out of the house. I hopped on my bike and pedaled away as fast as I could. A few minutes later, I arrived at the town square, parked my bike in the rack, and locked it up. I hurried to the movie theater, hoping Ryan wouldn't actually be there. But there he was, leaning against the side of the building, engrossed in his phone. When he noticed me, a smile broke across his face. "There you are. I was just about to call you and ask what on earth happened to you." "I got caught up with something else. Let's just finish this movie so we can head home and wrap up," I replied, raising my hand in a gesture of exasperation. I resolved to share everything with Ryan after the movie, once we left the theater. I hoped he would understand, given his love for horror films, and that he wouldn't think I was insane. A couple of hours later, the movie concluded, and we stood outside the theater. I opened my mouth, ready to explain everything, but he quickly silenced me. "I know you rode your bike here, but let's head to that smoothie shop just a few minutes away. Your bike will be fine, and if it gets stolen, you can hold me responsible," he suggested. Before long, we were strolling down the street in silence, and I let out a soft sigh before clearing my throat. "Ryan, remember how much I enjoy yard sales and how I love buying things from them?" Ryan nodded, as he often did when I had something to share, knowing that my words were usually significant. "At this yard sale, I stumbled upon a box filled with books, and One caught my eye, called The Prophetic Pages. Initially, I assumed it was just an old dull read, but it turned out it contained a page that predicted when everyone I care about will die. Just a few days ago, my neighbor, Mr. Thomas, passed away from a heart attack, and his name was listed in the book, along with the exact date of his death, as if it had foreseen it. So, is it like a death book or something? Ryan asked. I have no idea what it is. There was even a page for you that stated you'd get shot in the head and robbed today, I replied, my voice tinged with worry. I anticipated Ryan's reaction, hoping he would show concern or suggest that we head home right away. But instead he burst into laughter as if I had just shared a hilarious joke. Dude, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard from you in all our years of friendship. There it was. I knew he wouldn't take me seriously. He was going to mock me and label me a crazy. I regretted mentioning the book at all. As we walked past an alley, a man who appeared to be older than us suddenly emerged. He wore a white shirt beneath blue overalls and black boots, but what caught my attention was the white mask with black eye holes and the object that was gripped tightly in his hand. It was a gun, and in that instant I realized I had to intervene before things escalated. Before either Ryan or I could react, the man raised the gun and shot Ryan directly in the forehead. I stood frozen, watching in horror as my friend collapsed lifeless to the ground. Bystanders nearby gasped in shock and screamed at the unfolding scene, but the man discarded the gun and pounced on Ryan like a wild animal, rifling his pockets with frantic urgency. I was astonished that the prophetic pages had claimed yet another life. It appeared to have knowledge of all my friends and acquaintances, predicting what would happen next. Before long, days turned into weeks, and I'd almost forgotten about what had happened to Ryan. However, the prophetic pages remained etched in my mind, and I was determined to protect my family and friends. It wasn't until I stumbled upon a page from my father that I felt an overwhelming urge to scream and tear the book apart. Samuel Johnson, 53, dies in a car crash on April 30th, 2024. I realized that the date was less than a week away. I became frantic and desperate to find a way to prevent my dad's death. I needed answers, so I began flipping through the book, hoping the prophetic pages might offer a solution. That's when I discovered a name tucked away in the back of the book. Daniel Roberts, 25 years old, passed away from loneliness on May 15th, 2023. Still alive, owned book before. I was astonished. This guy had owned the prophetic pages before me, yet he was somehow still alive. I knew I had to find him. I took out my phone and began searching online, eventually finding an old news forum where Daniel had shared his experiences with the prophetic pages. I felt compelled to reach out to him, so I sent Daniel an email, pouring out my heart and hoping against all hope that he would respond. To my surprise, Daniel replied. He seemed somewhat withdrawn, yet he agreed to meet me at a downtown coffee shop to discuss things. Gathering all the essentials, I made my way to the coffee shop, arriving early to secure a seat. Anxiety washed over me as my stomach twisted into knots. When Daniel entered the coffee shop, I instantly recognized him from the photo he had sent. He appeared older, with graying hair and a weary expression. However, his eyes were sharp, as if he had witnessed too much in his life. I received your email. You're in trouble, aren't you? He asked, taking a seat across from me. I nodded, then retrieved the prophetic pages from my bag, sliding it across the table. I found this book at a yard sale and realized it foretold the deaths of my neighbors and friends. Both are gone, and all the names I know are listed in there. Can I prevent this somehow? Daniel gazed at me for a long time without uttering a word, his brows knitting together, and then he let out a soft sigh before meeting my gaze. You can't alter what has been inscribed in the prophetic pages. I've attempted to do so, and it only worsens the situation. The book has its own will. It unveils the truth, but it doesn't permit you to change it. What should I do then? I inquired, my voice full of desperation, my hands shaking. Just accept it. You can't battle fate, but you can treasure the time you have left with them. I felt my heart plummet, but something in Daniel's eyes indicated he comprehended my suffering. You gotta help me. How did you survive the prophetic pages? I implored. I learned to let go. The book is cursed, but it also teaches you to value life. You must confront your fears of loss. If you don't, it'll engulf you. His voice remained calm the whole way. His words struck a chord with me, yet they felt like a harsh reality to accept. I couldn't merely sit back and witness my loved ones die. I had to discover a way to fight it. We spent hours deliberating over the book, and with each moment that passed, I felt a spark of hope. Daniel recounted his own battles, the sorrows he had faced, and how he'd learned to accept the losses that he couldn't avert. We talked about finding comfort in the memories of those he had lost, and I began to realize that perhaps I'd been so preoccupied with trying to alter the future that I'd overlooked the present. When I got home that night, I reopened the prophetic pages, my mind buzzing with renewed resolve. I needed to confront the entries, to face the certainty of death with bravery. I picked up my phone, calling each of my friends and family, not to warn them, but to tell them how much they meant to me. I hung up, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. I reached out to my mother, my sister, to everyone listed in the book. I expressed my love for them, how much I valued our shared moments together. As the days passed, I felt increasingly lighter, even though the entry still lingered in my mind. The anniversary of my father's passing was drawing near, and I dedicated every possible moment to being with him. We went fishing, exchanging stories, and I made it a point to convey how much he meant to me. On April 30th, I sat next to him in the car as we headed out for lunch. A wave of tranquility washed over me, and upon arriving at the restaurant, I took a deep breath. The prophetic pages no longer held power over me. I'd come to terms with the potential of loss. As I stepped out of the car, a surge of panic hit me when I noticed a truck barreling towards us. But I was ready. I grabbed my dad's arm, pulling him back just in time. The truck veered off course, crashing into a lamppost instead. My heart raced, but I realized I'd finally made a decision. I chose to fight for those I loved, to face the darkness with light. Later that evening, I revisited the book, leafing through the pages one final time. When I reached the last page, I was astonished to see the writing had disappeared. The names and dates vanished before my eyes. The burden of the book felt lighter, and I recognized that I'd altered my destiny. I closed the book, enveloped in a sense of peace. Daniel had been right. I couldn't battle fate, but I could embrace life and the lives of the people I cherished. I had liberated myself from the chains of fear, and I'd learned to value the prophetic essence of life, treasuring every moment of it as if it were my last. As I returned the book to its shelf, I understood I would always remember the lessons it had imparted. Life is unpredictable, yet within that uncertainty lies the beauty of existence. While death may be unavoidable, love will always prevail. And with that revelation, I felt prepared to confront whatever lay ahead of me. Good evening, everyone. It's me, Dr. Plague. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's show. If you think you might like a little more spooky in your life, then please feel free to click on one of the videos we have up here. Maybe look at one of the playlists if you're trying to get caught up. I know, there's so many videos on the channel. There's so many series that are going at the same time. Sometimes you just need a little refresher course, and I gotta say, I always enjoy the views. If you're not subscribed, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Maybe hit the bell so you don't miss anything. We upload a lot on this channel, so you won't want to miss a single story as they come out. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click on the Amazon link down there. There's quite a few books in my Amazon account. You can have a look, and if you'd like a signed copy, get up with me through email, and I'll be happy to work something out with you. Also, there's links to my Patreon, and you can become a member on the channel if you'd like your spooky a little bit early. Patrons and members on the $5 tier get their videos 12 hours early. That's in the morning as opposed to in the evening. Patrons at the $10 level also get a signed copy of my book anytime I write one. Speaking of my patrons, you should see them appearing right now. Just wanted to take a minute to say how much I appreciate all of you. Patrons, subscribers, however you give to the channel. I really appreciate everything you do, and it truly touches me that you have chosen to support the channel in this way. Well, that's enough for now. Till next time, Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.